My nanny abused my twins as punishment whenever I did something she didn't approve of. I ended up getting our own kids taken away. What if the person you trusted most with your children was secretly a monster, systematically torturing them right under your nose? I thought I'd found the perfect nanny, a real-life Mary Poppins. But what I found hidden in her notebook, outlining years of calculated cruelty, still haunts my nightmares. It feels like a lifetime ago now, but we hired Bridget when my twins, James and Lucy, were just 3 years old. My maternity leave was ending after our baby was born, and I had to go back to work full-time. Bridget came with incredible references, like she was some kind of childcare unicorn. 15 years of experience. And my kids? They loved her instantly. Truly. For the first 6 months, she was Mary Poppins. She taught them songs, did crafts, took them to the park every single day. I paid her well above market rate because she was just so good and always flexible when I had to work late. I felt so lucky, so incredibly, terribly lucky. Then everything changed. I had to deny her request for a 2-week paid vacation to Italy with her boyfriend. Our contract clearly stated 1 week of paid vacation after a full year of employment, and she'd only been with us for 8 months. She said she understood. She said it was fine, but her whole attitude shifted after that. Suddenly, the kids started having more tantrums, which was weird. They were past that phase. James, my sensitive little boy, became scared of the dark again, waking up crying in the middle of the night. Lucy, usually so cheerful, started wetting the bed after months of being completely dry. I'd ask Bridget, "Is anything happening during the day? Have you noticed anything different?" She'd just shrug. "Oh, they're probably just going through a phase. Maybe you're not giving them enough attention since you work so much." That stung, but I figured she might have a point. I started trying to leave work earlier. Then I had to miss her birthday because of a huge presentation. I left a card, a generous bonus, and apologized profusely. The very next day, both twins came down with mysterious stomach aches that, shockingly, disappeared the moment Bridget left for the day. And this pattern, it started to repeat. Every time I did something that annoyed Bridget, my kids had a terrible day. If I was late getting home, the kids wouldn't get their afternoon snack. If I forgot to stock her favorite artisanal coffee, the kids would be put in timeout for hours. If I dared to question any of her methods, just ask a clarifying question, my children would suddenly lose privileges like their tablets or favorite toys. I started noticing the correlation, but I had no proof. My twins were too young to articulate what was happening. Bridget always had a plausible explanation. James didn't eat his lunch, so no snack. Lucy was talking back, so she needed a timeout. It sounded reasonable, but deep down, something felt terribly, chillingly wrong. The breaking point came when I had to cancel Bridget's requested raise. Our car had broken down, and we needed the money for emergency repairs. I promised to revisit it in 3 months, but she was furious. "You clearly don't value me," she sneered. The next day, I came home early with a migraine. I walked into the living room, and there they were, both twins, my 3-year-olds, sitting in timeout facing the wall. The baby was crying in his crib upstairs. Bridget was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She jumped up when she saw me, all fake smiles. "Oh, the twins just got put in timeout 5 minutes ago for fighting," she chirped. But James, my brave little boy, whispered, "No, Mommy, we've been here since lunch." It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Bridget heard him. She gave him a look that made him instantly silent, eyes wide with fear. I pretended everything was normal. But that week, I installed a nanny cam in the living room. Without telling her, what I saw made me physically sick. Whenever Bridget was mad at me, she'd take it out on them. If I texted her about a schedule change, she'd take away their toys and make them sit in silence. If I didn't buy her the expensive organic groceries she requested, she'd give my kids plain bread for lunch while she ate their actual meals. When I worked late, she'd put them to bed 2 hours early without dinner, telling them, "Mommy doesn't care enough to come home." She'd make 3-year-olds do wall sits as punishment until they cried. She'd tell them, "Mommy loves work more than you. That's why she's never home." The worst part, when she was happy with me, she was sweet as pie, giving them treats and extra playtime. She created this sick, twisted cycle where my children's happiness depended entirely on whether I'd please the nanny. I wanted to fire her immediately, scream at her, but I knew I needed more evidence of the pattern. That's when Bridget made a monumental mistake. One day, her kids' school was closed, so she brought them to our house. Mia was 8, Remy was 10, old enough to understand what they were seeing. Bridget spent the day barking orders at my twins while letting her own kids eat all our snacks and play with all my children's toys. When my twins asked for lunch, she told them they had to wait until her kids were done eating. Mia looked deeply uncomfortable. The next day, Mia called me from her mom's phone while Bridget was in the bathroom. "I've seen my mom be mean to your babies," she said, her voice small but firm. "It's not right. She does the same thing to other kids she's nannied before, and that's why they keep having to find new families." My blood ran cold. My mom comes home and brags about how she trained parents to treat her better by making their kids miserable. She has a notebook where she tracks what she does to kids based on what their parents do wrong. Mia was tired of it. She wanted it to stop. My hands shook as I held the phone. "Mia," I whispered, "tell me everything about this notebook." She said her mom kept it in her purse and wrote in it every night. The notebook listed what each family did wrong and what punishment she gave the kids the next day. Mia's voice got quieter. She tracks everything like it's some kind of game. If parents were late, the kids lost snacks. If parents questioned her methods, the kids got extra timeouts. Mia had seen the notebook dozens of times. Entries went back years. My stomach churned, imagining how many children Bridget had hurt. Mia explained Bridget had worked for 6 families in the past 3 years. She always got fired or quit before anyone figured out her pattern. My mom called it training parents to respect nannies, Mia said. She'd brag about it to her boyfriend. She'd come home and laugh about how she made some kid cry that day because their parent forgot to buy her expensive coffee. Mia's voice cracked. She told me and my brother, "This is how you get people to treat you, right?" I asked Mia if she was safe. She said Bridget was in the shower. She gave me her school counselor's name, just in case. "Promise me you won't tell my mom I called," she pleaded. Then she hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, heart pounding. Dario was on a business trip in Chicago. I called him, rambling everything out in one long rush. The nanny cam footage, Mia's call, the notebook. He thought I was overreacting at first. "Maybe you're stressed, seeing patterns that aren't there." I was so angry I almost hung up. "Shut up and listen," I snapped. I described the hours-long timeouts, the bread lunches, the cruel words. She told them I didn't love them enough to come home. Dario went silent. Then I heard him breathing heavily, trying not to cry. "I'll book the next flight home," he choked out. "I'll be back tomorrow morning." His voice was completely different now. Not dismissive. Shattered. "Take the kids to your mom's tonight. Don't let Bridget know anything. We need to be smart about this. If she suspects, she might destroy the notebook or hurt the kids worse." I agreed. I hung up. Then I had to go downstairs and act normal. I packed bags for the kids, pajamas, clothes, their favorite stuffed animals. My hands shook as I folded their tiny shirts. Bridget was in the kitchen, making herself a snack when I came down. "Mom's not feeling well." I lied. "She needs help. We're staying there for a few days." Bridget's face went cold. Her whole expression changed in a second. That look made my skin crawl. She knew. She must have known she was losing access to her targets. She just nodded, turning away. I got the kids in the car as fast as I could. James asked why we were going to Grandma's on a school night. "Grandma misses you," I said, trying to sound cheerful. Lucy was excited. Grandma always had cookies. The drive took 30 minutes. I kept checking my rearview mirror, convinced Bridget would follow us. At my mom's, I settled the kids with a movie. Then I showed my mom the nanny cam footage. She watched in complete silence, her face growing paler with each video. When she saw the one where Bridget told the twins I didn't love them, my mom started crying. "We need to call the police right away," she insisted. I convinced her to wait for Dario. We needed to be smart, organized. We couldn't mess this up. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake until 2 a.m., then got up and went through all the nanny cam footage from the past month. I sat at my mom's kitchen table, a laptop open, a notebook in front of me. I meticulously documented every instance of abuse with timestamps and descriptions. Extended timeout 12:15 to 3:30 on Tuesday. No afternoon snack Wednesday after text about schedule change. Bread only for lunch Thursday. Early bedtime without dinner Friday. The list went on for pages. Reading it all back, I felt physically ill. I'd let this happen to my babies for weeks. Dario arrived at 6 a.m. He looked awful, like he hadn't slept on the plane. I showed him the footage. He watched Bridget tell our twins that Mommy and Daddy didn't love them enough to come home. He broke down, sobbing, his whole body shaking. I'd never seen him cry like that. "I'm so sorry," he kept repeating. "Sorry for not believing me. Sorry for traveling so much. Sorry for not being there." We just held each other, the raw pain of it all washing over us. Then we had to figure out what to do. We decided to contact Child Protective Services first. Mia and Remy were still living with Bridget. We worried if we just got Bridget arrested, her kids might end up in a worse situation. They needed protection, too. We looked up the CPS number and I made the call. Natalia Russo, the CPS investigator, showed up at my mom's house that afternoon. She looked like she'd seen everything, calm and composed. We sat in the dining room, my mom taking the kids outside. Natalia pulled out a tablet and a notepad. "Start from the beginning," she said. I recounted the whole story, Dario holding my hand under the table. Natalia took notes, asking specific questions about dates and times, the changes in James and Lucy's behavior, the nanny cam. She nodded when I said Bridget didn't know about the camera. "Good," she said. "That means the footage shows Bridget's true behavior." Then I showed her the videos. For over an hour, Natalia watched, her face calm, but her jaw tightening when Bridget told my kids I didn't love them, pausing when Bridget made James do wall sits until he cried. She requested copies of all the footage and my documentation log. "This is clearly a case of psychological abuse and possible neglect," she concluded. "What makes this particularly bad is the systematic nature of it. Bridget wasn't losing her temper. She was deliberately hurting children to manipulate their parents. That shows planning and intent." She informed us she'd do a welfare check on Mia and Remy at their school the next day. She'd also need to interview James and Lucy, gently. I felt sick thinking about my babies having to relive it. "I'm trained in interviewing young children," she reassured me. "It will be as gentle as possible." Then the notebook. Natalia agreed it would be crucial evidence. It would prove this isn't just about your family, but a pattern of behavior across multiple households. I gave her Mia's school counselor's name. She wrote it down, planning to coordinate with the school to interview Mia in a safe place, protecting her from retaliation. Natalia handed me her card. "Don't contact Bridget," she warned. "Don't let her know about the investigation yet. We need to gather all the evidence first." I walked her to the door. Then I fell apart. Dario held me while I sobbed. 2 days passed. No word from Natalia. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I checked my phone every 5 minutes. Dario had to go back to work, but he called me every hour. On the 3rd day, Natalia called. She'd interviewed Mia. Mia confirmed everything, including the notebook and where Bridget kept it hidden in her bedroom closet. Mia had also given her the names of 2 previous families Bridget had worked for. "The case is building," Natalia said, but this has crossed into criminal territory. I need to coordinate with law enforcement. The next day, I got a call from Detective Paolo Russo, Natalia's husband. They often work together on child abuse cases. He wanted to interview me about filing criminal charges. I met Paolo at the police station. He was older, with gray hair and kind eyes. He offered me coffee. I declined. My stomach was too twisted. He pulled out a recorder. "Do you mind?" he asked. I said no. I told him everything again. He listened, took notes, his expression growing harder with each video I showed him on my laptop. "This is one of the most clear-cut abuse cases I've seen," he said when I finished, "because of the video evidence. Usually, it's one person's word against another's." I gave him copies of all the videos, my documentation log, and the contact information for the families Mia had mentioned. Paolo said he would get a search warrant for Bridget's apartment. "She'll figure out what's happening once we execute the warrant," he warned. "Things are going to get ugly fast." He suggested I hire a lawyer. I called a family law attorney, Joaquin Reyes, recommended by a friend. Joaquin was younger than I expected, with a friendly smile. He listened, reviewed the footage, then gave me surprising advice. Fire Bridget immediately. Send a termination letter citing violation of trust and contract terms, but without mentioning the abuse or investigation. That way, he explained, we have documentation that we ended the employment relationship for legitimate reasons. It protects you if Bridget tries to claim wrongful termination. We drafted the letter, short, professional. I thanked Bridget for her service, but stated her employment was terminated immediately due to violation of trust and failure to follow childcare standards. Her final paycheck would be mailed. Back at my mom's, my hands shook as I typed the text to Bridget. "Your services are no longer needed. I will mail your final paycheck by the end of the week. Thank you." I hit send before I could change my mind. The response came instantly, then another, and another. My phone buzzed nonstop. Bridget called me ungrateful, threatened to sue, said she'd make sure everyone knew what a terrible employer I was. She called me a bad mother who cared more about work than her children. I showed Waken the messages. "Save everything, but don't respond," he advised. Her angry threats are helping our case. They show her true personality. I blocked her number. 3 days after I blocked Bridget, Paolo called. They were ready to execute the search warrant. He wanted me to know, so I wouldn't worry when Bridget inevitably figured it out. I sat down hard on my mom's couch. This was really happening. There was no going back. Paolo said they'd chosen a time when Bridget would be at her boyfriend's, avoiding confrontation and evidence tampering. I spent those 3 days in a weird state of anxiety and hope. The twins were doing better at my mom's, playing with toys they hadn't touched in weeks. But I kept checking my phone, waiting. When Paolo finally called again, his voice was different. They'd found the notebook, exactly where Mia said it would be, tucked inside Bridget's purse in her bedroom closet. But that wasn't all. They'd found 5 more notebooks, hidden in a box under her bed, each one labeled with different family names and dates. My stomach dropped. 5 other families, 5 other sets of children who'd gone through what my twins had experienced. Paolo needed me to come to the station to review the notebook with my family's name on it. Dario drove with me, my hands shaking on the wheel the whole way. The notebook sat on Paolo's desk in a clear evidence bag. It looked so normal. A regular spiral notebook, blue cover. Paolo put on gloves, opened it carefully. The first entry was dated 2 weeks after I denied her Italy vacation request. She'd written about how I clearly didn't respect her. The next entry detailed her plan. The most effective way to train parents is through their children, because parents will do anything to make their kids happy. She'd identified my weak points: working long hours, guilt, wanting happy, well-adjusted kids. She could use all of this against me, she'd written. The entries got worse as I kept reading. Each one started with something I'd done that annoyed her. followed by the punishment she'd given the twins, and then notes about whether it had changed my behavior. Late pickup Tuesday equals no afternoon snack for James and Lucy. Result: Mom apologized profusely and brought expensive coffee. Question timeout method Thursday equals take away twins tablets for weekend. Result: Mom stopped questioning methods, started doubting her own parenting. Forgot organic yogurt equals plain bread for twins, she ate nuggets. Result: Mom started keeping detailed grocery lists, never forgot requests again. She'd turned my children into tools to manipulate me. Every punishment was calculated to make me more compliant, more eager to please, more willing to give her whatever she wanted. Paolo turned to a section where Bridget had written out her actual rules. Parent late equals no snack. Parent questions nanny equals extended timeout / privileges lost. Parent forgets requested items equals reduced meals. Parent works late equals early bedtime without dinner. Parent denies requests equals psychological manipulation, telling children their parents don't love them. She'd made a game out of torturing 3-year-olds. I started crying, reading her notes about how effective certain punishments were. Food deprivation worked best for changing parent behavior quickly, she'd written, because parents noticed their children's hunger immediately. She noted that psychological manipulation took longer, but created deeper compliance because parents started believing they were actually bad parents who needed the nanny's guidance. Dario had to leave the room. I heard him in the hallway, sounding like he was going to be sick. Paolo gave me a moment, then showed me the other notebooks. Same pattern. She'd start perfect, then get angry, then systematically abuse children to train their parents. The Livingston family notebook detailed months of abuse after Mrs. Livingston got pregnant and wouldn't pay Bridget extra to care for the new baby. Bridget locked their oldest daughter in bathrooms, told her parents were replacing her, made her do exercises until she collapsed. Another family denied a raise, so Bridget spent 3 months making their son terrified of her, perfecting the art of hurting children in ways that didn't leave visible marks. Pinching soft areas, pulling hair, squeezing arms hard enough to hurt but not bruise. She bragged about never getting caught. She wrote that parents were so desperate and guilty they'd believe any explanation. Making children think the abuse was their fault was crucial, so they wouldn't tell. The notebook with my family's name had entries right up until the day before I fired her. The last entry said she was planning to escalate, to start leaving the twins alone for longer, maybe introduce physical punishments since the psychological ones weren't making me cave fast enough. If I hadn't installed that nanny cam, if Mia hadn't called, Bridget would have hurt my children even worse. Paolo closed the notebooks. This is some of the most detailed evidence of systematic child abuse I've ever seen, he said. Most abusers don't document their actions like this. Bridget was so confident she'd never get caught. He was already contacting the other 5 families. 2 days later, Natalia called. CPS had removed Mia and Remy from Bridget's custody temporarily. They were placed with Bridget's sister. Natalia said Mia seemed relieved. She'd been scared to live with her mom for years, but didn't know how to ask for help. Remy was younger, more confused, but Mia was explaining things to her. I asked if I could send Mia a card, a gift. "Thank you for your courage," the card said. Inside, I wrote that Mia had saved my children and probably others. I included a bookstore gift card. That same week, Freya Livingston called. Paolo had contacted her. Seeing the notebook entries about her family explained so much. Her daughter Lily had developed nightmares and anxiety while Bridget was their nanny. They'd fired Bridget, but never understood why Lily's symptoms got worse every day Bridget was there. We met for coffee. Freya, younger than I expected, with tired eyes. She thanked me for catching Bridget. Lily, now 7, was still dealing with anxiety. After seeing the notebook, Freya and her husband finally sat down with Lily. Bridget had locked her in the bathroom for hours, told her parents didn't care, and that if she told, they'd be angry for being a bad girl. Lily carried that guilt for 3 years. Freya started crying. They'd spent thousands on therapy, never knowing their trusted nanny had been torturing their daughter. I held her hand. 2 more families contacted Paolo. One mother realized her son's terror of the nanny was based on Bridget's mood. Another family realized their daughter's weight loss was due to Bridget withholding food as punishment. 6 families total. 6 sets of children. Paolo arrested Bridget on a Wednesday. The charges: multiple counts of child abuse, endangerment, and criminal conspiracy. He said the prosecutor, Aurelio Bailey, was confident they had a strong case. I felt a weird mix of relief and anger. Relief that she couldn't hurt any more children. Anger that it had taken this long and this many victims. 2 days after her arrest, Bridget's boyfriend posted her bail. She was released with an ankle monitor and court orders to stay away from us. Waken immediately filed for a restraining order. Granted within hours. 500 feet. No contact, direct or indirect. Violation meant immediate jail, no bail. I found a child psychologist specializing in abuse cases. Estelle had kind eyes, a calm office with toys. James and Lucy were nervous at first. Estelle explained it was normal. Kids who'd been hurt needed time to feel safe enough to share. We scheduled twice-weekly sessions. We were finally doing something to help them heal. The second session, Estelle brought out dolls. James grabbed a boy doll, Lucy a girl doll. They started acting out scenes from the nanny cam. Lucy made her doll sit facing a wall. James's doll cried. The mean lady was mad at the mommy, Lucy explained. The boy wasn't allowed to move, or the mean lady would make it worse. My stomach twisted. During the third session, Lucy drew a stick figure woman with an angry face standing over 2 small figures. That's what happened when they cried during time out, she said. She pointed to the woman's hands. Bridget would pinch them hard on their arms and legs where it wouldn't show, squeezing until they stopped crying because crying made her more angry. James nodded. Bridget told us if we ever told you about the pinching or the timeouts, she would make sure you lost your job and we'd all have to live on the street. The abuse went deeper than I'd seen on camera. Estelle took notes, told them they were brave, that Bridget had lied. Estelle met with Dario and me without the kids. She explained how Bridget had systematically destroyed our children's sense of safety and trust, convinced 5-year-olds that our family survival depended on keeping her happy. She walked us through how abusers isolate children, making them feel responsible for adult situations. Dario started crying. Then I did. We sat there, breaking down, while Estelle handed us tissues. She assured us children were incredibly tough, could heal with proper support. James and Lucy would recover. This conversation gave me hope, even as it hurt. 2 days later, Dario called me at work. He came home early. He'd quit his traveling sales job, took a local position at a different company. The pay would be lower, not as good for his career path. But no amount of money is worth missing what our kids are going through and leaving you to handle everything alone. He realized he needed to be present. I hugged him, crying, I love you. I meant it more than I had in years. Having him home, involved, made everything feel less impossible. 6 weeks after Bridget's arrest, we got notices about the first hearing. All 6 families showed up. The judge listened to Paolo present the case, evidence of the pattern of abuse. Bridget sat at the defense table, bored. Her lawyer argued the notebooks were just personal journals, the nanny cam footage, normal discipline. Then Mia was called to testify, small but determined. She spoke clearly about seeing her mother be mean to my twins and other kids. She described the notebooks, her mother bragging about training parents. Bridget's face got red. She whispered angry things to her lawyer. The judge told Bridget to be quiet. Mia's voice shook, but she kept going. She'd wanted to tell someone for a long time, but was scared. She called me because She couldn't watch my babies get hurt anymore. The courtroom was silent when she finished. The judge took a break, reviewed Bridget's notebooks in her chambers. When she came back, she looked furious. She read excerpts aloud, withholding food, hours-long timeouts, telling children their parents didn't love them. This level of calculated, systematic abuse is shocking, she declared. She denied Bridget's lawyer's motion to dismiss. More than enough evidence for trial. Bridget remained on house arrest. 2 days later, Bridget's sister reached out through Waken. She wanted to adopt Mia and Remy permanently. She explained Bridget had always been controlling, even as a kid. Having children gave her new targets. Bridget used childcare money from the state to fund her lifestyle. The sister had been trying to get custody for a while but lacked proof. Now she had a real shot. I met with Bridget's sister several times. She had a steady job, owned her home. She showed me separate bedrooms for Mia and Remy. Natalia visited the aunt's house. Mia was sleeping through the night, Remy eating. They were enrolled in a new school. Mia told Natalia she felt safe for the first time in years. She used to lie awake, worrying about the kids her mom watched. Now she could sleep. I don't want to go back to my mother. Not ever, Mia said. Can I stay with my aunt forever? Natalia promised she'd do everything possible. My own kids started showing real improvement. James stopped being scared of the dark. Lucy's bedwetting mostly stopped. They laughed and played again. Estelle explained they understood Bridget was the problem, not all caregivers. James told Estelle he'd been scared to tell me because Bridget said I'd lose my job. Lucy said Bridget told her I worked all the time because I didn't want to be home with them. These lies had made my kids feel responsible. Estelle explained over and over that none of it was their fault. She taught them words to describe their feelings. I met with my boss. I explained everything. I needed to reduce my hours, arrange a flexible schedule for therapy and bedtimes. I was prepared for him to say no. Instead, he completely understood. He let me shift to a 4-day work week, work from home on Fridays. Family comes first, he said. The pay cut hurt, but Dario and I agreed it was worth it. Our kids needed us present. The other families from Bridget's past formed a support group. 6 families, all with young kids hurt by Bridget. We shared experiences, advice. Freya and I became particularly close. Our kids bonded over their shared experience. Lucy told Freya's daughter about the timeouts. Freya's daughter told Lucy about being locked in the bathroom. They were helping each other heal. 3 months after Bridget's arrest, Aurelio, the prosecutor, called. Bridget's lawyer had approached him about a plea deal. They wanted to avoid trial, the publicity of 6 families testifying. The plea deal: Bridget pleads guilty to multiple counts of child endangerment, serves 5 years, registered as a child abuser. We met with Aurelio. Some parents were furious, wanted a longer sentence. Others, like me, just wanted it over. We didn't want to put our kids through testifying. Aurelio explained trials were risky. A plea deal, guaranteed time served, a criminal record. We agreed to accept, but with conditions. Bridget permanently loses custody of Mia and Remy, banned from working with children ever again. Cannot remove her name from the child abuse registry. Aurelio negotiated. 2 weeks later, Aurelio called. The plea deal was finalized, all our conditions included. 5 years in prison, no early release. Permanent loss of parental rights to Mia and Remy. Her sister granted full legal custody. Registered as a child abuser for life. Permanently banned from any job involving children. We'd all have the chance to read victim impact statements at the sentencing. I definitely wanted to speak. The sentencing hearing was 3 weeks later. Dario held my hand in the courtroom. Bridget sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, blank-faced. She didn't look at us. When my name was called, I walked to the front, legs shaking, and unfolded my statement. My voice cracked as I read about coming home to find my twins in timeout for hours, about Bridget telling them Mommy loved work more. I explained how James had nightmares, Lucy wet the bed, how Bridget tried to destroy their trust in me. When I finished, I looked directly at Bridget. No reaction, no guilt, nothing. Freya read her statement next, describing Lily locked in bathrooms. Another mother talked about anxiety attacks. A third about twins pitted against each other. The judge listened, taking notes, occasionally looking at Bridget with clear disapproval. When all statements were finished, the judge spoke directly to Bridget. This is not about losing your temper. This is deliberate, planned abuse of multiple children over years. You are a danger to any child in your care. She accepted the plea deal, but added extra conditions: psychological evaluation before parole, permanent child abuse registry. She made it clear Bridget's actions warranted these permanent consequences. Bridget showed no emotion. The bailiff led her away. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived with careful, rounded handwriting. From Mia. She thanked me for believing her. Living with her aunt was a completely different life. No more worrying about her mom's mood. Mia and Remy were happy, doing well in school. Her aunt let them just be. Kids. She thanked me for helping them get away from her mother. She hoped James and Lucy were doing better, too. I cried, thinking how brave she'd been. Mia's aunt had full legal custody. The kids were thriving. Mia's letter ended with a drawing of a sunshine with a smiley face. I put it on our refrigerator, a reminder of how one child's courage had saved so many. 6 months after Mia's phone call changed everything. James and Lucy were remarkably different. Occasional nightmares, yes. Lucy still got anxious when I worked late. But most days, they were back to being regular 5-year-olds. They stopped wetting the bed. James wasn't afraid of the dark. They fought over toys like normal siblings. They laughed and played. The fear in their eyes was mostly gone. Estelle, their therapist, explained they'd processed most of the trauma. They learned to tell her when they felt scared. They could talk about Bridget without shutting down. Estelle recommended reducing sessions, knowing they were building stronger emotional skills. Children are incredibly strong, she said, when they have supportive parents who believe them and protect them. She told me I'd done everything right. I had changed too. I no longer felt guilty about working or apologized for having boundaries. Before Bridget, I'd tried to please everyone, constantly second-guessing myself. Now, I understood being a good mother meant protecting my children without hesitation, trusting my gut, setting firm boundaries. I didn't apologize anymore for needing to work. I'd found my voice. Dario and I were closer than ever. He was fully present with the kids, not just physically there, but actually engaged. He quit his traveling job, took a local one. He knew their schedules, their favorite foods, which stuffed animals they slept with. Our marriage felt like a real partnership. We learned we were strongest when we worked together, that our family came before everything else. The support group kept meeting. We started researching childcare regulations, discovering how easy it was for abusers like Bridget to move from family to family. We decided to do something about it. We worked with local legislators on a bill requiring more comprehensive background checks for childcare workers, mandatory reporting training, a centralized database for concerns. We shared our stories. The bill was named after all the children affected. Standing in the state capitol, watching the governor sign it into law, felt surreal. Freya stood next to me. The law wouldn't fix everything, but it would make it harder for people like Bridget. My phone rang one Tuesday. A woman named Sarah. She was hiring a nanny for her 2-year-old twins. She'd found my name through the support group website. She wanted advice on warning signs. I talked to her for over an hour, sharing everything. Trust your instincts, I told her. Install cameras, even if it seems paranoid. I explained the patterns I'd missed with Bridget. Nannies who try to make parents feel guilty or have unusual turnover are red flags. Sarah thanked me. I realized this was part of my own healing, helping other parents avoid my mistakes. 3 weeks later, Rachel called. She'd fired her nanny after talking to me. Found footage of the nanny ignoring her baby's cries for over an hour. These conversations became part of my weekly routine. Each one reminded me why speaking up mattered. One afternoon, James came over, sat next to me on the couch. "Mommy," he said, "I'm not scared anymore. I know you'll always protect me." My heart almost burst. Lucy climbed up on my other side. "I know if something's wrong, I can tell you, and you'll believe me and fix it." I hugged them tight. Those words meant everything. They trusted me again. They felt safe again. Estelle had said rebuilding trust was the most important part of healing. A full year passed since Mia made that brave phone call. My family was genuinely happy and healthy. We hired a new nanny, Sophia, patient with my extra questions. The kids adored her immediately, but this time it was genuine. She played games, read stories, treated them with warmth. She never made them feel like their happiness depended on my actions. Watching them laugh and play freely with her felt like a gift. I learned to trust my instincts. I checked in with my kids regularly, asking specific questions. We had open conversations about good touch and bad touch. "No adult should ever ask you to keep secrets from mommy and daddy," I told them. "You can always tell me if anyone makes you uncomfortable." These talks became natural parts of our day. Dario reinforced the same messages. Mia and Remy visited for playdates. Mia had grown more confident, open. She was thriving with her aunt, joining drama club. "I want to be a social worker," she told me, to help other kids in bad situations. I hugged her. "You're already helping kids by being brave enough to make that phone call." Remy was doing well, too. Both kids seemed lighter, happier. The legislation we'd advocated for finally passed. More comprehensive background checks, mandatory reporting training, a centralized database. The bill was named after all the children affected. Standing in the state capitol, Freya squeezing my hand, watching the governor sign it into law. It felt like justice. I stood at the kitchen window one Saturday morning, watching my 3 children play. The baby, now a toddler, chased James and Lucy as they kicked a soccer ball. Their laughter filled the house. Overwhelming gratitude washed over me. Mia's courage saved my children from further trauma, and probably countless others from becoming Bridget's future victims. If Mia hadn't been brave, Bridget might still be working as a nanny somewhere, hurting other kids, manipulating other families. The thought made me shiver. But Mia had been brave, and now my kids were healing and happy. They were safe. They knew they were loved. They trusted that Dario and I would protect them no matter what. Life was genuinely good. We'd learned that speaking up and fighting for your children were always worth it, no matter how hard, how long. Sometimes the worst experiences teach us how strong we really are and what truly matters. I'd learned to trust my gut, to ask hard questions, never to ignore warning signs. Being a good parent meant protecting your kids fiercely, setting boundaries, and believing them when they told you something was wrong. These lessons came at a terrible cost, but they made me a better mother, a better advocate. Looking at James, Lucy, and the baby playing in the sunshine, I knew we'd come through the darkness and found our way back to light. What about you? Have you ever had a moment where your gut told you something was wrong, and it turned out to be so much worse than you imagined? How did you react? Share your story in the comments below. I'm listening.